Hello everyone and welcome to our International Women's Day event. Happy International Women's Day. Welcome to Soroptimists in Wales Taking Action, our All Wales event to celebrate 100 years of Soroptimist International. It is such a shame that we can't be at the Senedd today as we had all planned. But however, despite this event changing date and shape several times due to COVID restrictions, there is no more important a day than International Women's Day to celebrate the work of Soroptimist International. Our wonderful speakers today are from North Wales. We have Caroline Adams, SI Rill. From Wales South, Julia Brady and Bella Prickett, SI Haverfordwest, and Pat Salt from SI Barry. With them being able to convene on this platform, we also have the bonus of being able to share our projects on modern day slavery and microfinance with a wider audience, as we all aim to break the bias. We are delighted to welcome Soroptimist International Great Britain and Ireland Federation President, Cathy Cottridge. We'll hear from Cathy later. I'm not sure if Cathy's here yet, but thank you, Cathy, anyway, for fitting us into your hectic schedule on this important day. We are joined by Soroptimists from Cheshire, North Wales and the Wirral, as well as Wales South and far further afield. Welcome to you all. A special welcome to members of the Senedd and all of those of you joining us for the first time. Unfortunately, Jane Hutt, Minister of Social Justice, has sent her apologies, but we are very pleased that Deputy Minister for Social Partnerships, Hannah Blythyn, MS, is able to speak to us today. Welcome, Hannah. I am most grateful to Joyce Watson, MS, for sponsoring this event. Joyce is a former member of my Soroptimist Club, Haverfordwest, and is always very supportive of all Soroptimist work. So I'm particularly pleased to have her as our sponsor. Thank you very much, Joyce. Joyce is with us live from the Senedd, accompanied by Kim-Ann Williamson, MBE, President of Soroptimist International, Cardiff and District. She's representing their club from the heart of the capital city. The session will be broadcast live throughout the building and will be recorded. The recording will be made available after the event and details of that will follow. If you wish to remain anonymous, then I suggest you turn off your camera and rename yourself. Due to time constraints, there will be no question and answer sessions today, but you are invited to type questions into the chat box, and these will be submitted to the speakers after the event and you will be responded to. Well, that concludes all of the housekeeping. Now let's get on with the show. It now gives me great pleasure to hand over to Kim-Ann at the Senedd to introduce our sponsor, Joyce Watson, MS.
Thank you, Heidi, and good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here live at the Senedd with Joyce. And it's absolutely a fantastic experience for us today. You may hear some background noise going on during the session. Please bear with us, but obviously it's business as usual here at the Senedd today. So it gives me absolute great delight. For us locally, Joyce needs no introduction, but Joyce Watson champions white ribbon causes, and how I've always known Joyce is that she chairs a cross-party group in relation to human trafficking. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to you, Joyce. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I think the first thing we all need to think about, and I'm sure we are thinking about, are the women and the children in Ukraine. On this International Women's Day, they are literally fleeing for their lives to find safety. And I think it would be unfair not to mention the women who are campaigning against the war in Russia, who are also putting themselves in the front line to try to bring some stability there. I also want to there's an echo. I also want to thank Soroptimists in Wales for inviting me to speak today about my campaigning work in the Senedd and raising awareness against violence. And we've got some feedback. Okay, we'll try. I don't know what the feedback is. Can everybody switch to mute? Is everybody on mute? That would help. There we are. So that's great. So I've been campaigning for women's issues all of my life in the hope that my daughters wouldn't have to, who are equally now campaigning for women's issues. And my granddaughter is also very keen already on, and I don't like the word women's issues, quite frankly. I think it just puts us in a nice, neat little box. We can be packaged and ignored. So that's not my thinking at all. But I have been actively campaigning for the White Ribbon campaign in Wales for over 17 years now. I've joined forces with the National Federation Women's Institute and started a yearly campaign with the White Ribbon campaign called Not in My Name. And there is no doubt that domestic abuse is a gendered crime. It's deeply rooted in societal inequality between women and men. Women are far more likely than men to experience multiple incidents of domestic abuse, sexual violence, such as intimate partner violence, sexual assault and stalking, alongside forced marriage, female genital mutilation, and so-called honour crimes. There are no barriers, of course, to experiencing domestic abuse. It doesn't matter what your race is, your ethnicity, your religious group, your sexuality, class, or your disability. It will not prevent you from, sadly, suffering some form of domestic abuse. So what were we going to do about it? We had to get men on our side. That's what the Not in My Name campaign is. It's men saying to other men, you are not doing this in my name. And since they make up 50% of the population, we needed their help. So we set about recruiting sportsmen because it is the case very often that men will look up to their sporting heroes to emulate their behavior. So we know that there is widespread evidence that sporting events, including particularly rugby, whether Wales win or lose, that the incident of domestic abuse goes up, and that the police increase their numbers by 25% to deal with that. Now, that abuse isn't happening on the field, it's happening as a consequence of that. So it seemed obvious then to start recruiting male ambassadors, and we have recruited them, including the Welsh rugby team, there in that space. And we do know that it rises exponentially. So this campaign has gone from strength to strength. And whilst I did say at the start it's a joint campaign with the WI, Soroptimists in Wales have been heavily involved in that too. And it's a must for me to say that. So
yeah,
we have got, somebody's put their sound back on. So we recruited the Cardiff Devils ice hockey team, the Scarlets rugby team, who gave a game over to us. We've Rugby International, Terry Davis, Chris Green, director of White Ribbon Campaign, male voice choirs, Only Men Allowed, large farming organisations like the NFU Cymru, and students. I'm sure that many of you here will know the stats, and the stats are pretty horrific. That one woman two women every week are killed as a consequence, direct consequence of domestic abuse. And that 1.6 million women aged 16 to 74 years in England and Wales experience domestic abuse. That's 7% of the female population. That is a scary number. And that 3% of women experience sexual assault and 5% stalking. And those trends are static over the last 10 years. So there's a real wake-up call here that has to happen. That was a crime recorded data where that's 46% of adult female homicide victims in England and Wales, 81 of them were women, and they were all killed in a domestic homicide. So it's a hidden crime, although I'm pleased to say that very often now it is not as hidden as it used to be. We also need to talk about female genital mutilation. There has been no prosecution, as far as I'm aware, in this country, and yet we have seen that 5,395 women and girls have attendances at NH Trust or GPs in England where FMG was identified. So that seems an incredible statement to me. So what are we doing? Well, in the Assembly, of course, we are now putting respect for each other very firmly on the agenda when children are being taught and having lessons in school. Oh God, I just shut myself out or shut something. Right, sorry, you're all back. Sorry about that. I pressed a button. I should know not to press a button. So the PSE curriculum in school will now teach respect. I've worked with schools for many, many years, and it is about teaching children at a very, very young age that you respect those around you. And it's basic, it's obvious, and I'm very, very pleased that it is there. But we do know there's under recording in crimes and under detection. So there is a case, it is the case, that rape of a female aged 16 years and over are often closed. 60% of those rape cases are closed. Huge numbers are not even investigated. I had a meeting with Dyfed-Powys Police Commissioner on this very issue. I don't really want to hear, I'm not interested in hearing the excuses and the reason as to why we've got these statistics. I want to hear about what you're going to do about it. I'm very much a roll up your sleeves and do something person. So I want to know what it is the police aim to do to make sure that when a woman makes a complaint about rape or domestic abuse, that they're following it through, taking it seriously and taking the appropriate action. So we do have an always domestic abuse strategy. It's been updated, it's going forward. We have the Right to Be Safe strategy. We have the Violence Against Women, Domestic Abuse and Sexual Violence Wales Act. So we have all the legislation in place. It does promote awareness, but what we actually need now is for that to be making a difference on the ground. There is the Live Fear-Free helpline, and it provides 24-hour help and advice and emergency support for women experiencing domestic abuse or sexual violence. We have emergency accommodation, counselling, legal and personal support, but it has to be equal across Wales. And that's the other issue. I represent rural Wales, 2/3 of rural Wales, so I know that there are disparities. And also anti-human trafficking is an area that is really close to my heart. And in 2009, I launched a report called Knowing No Boundaries. And as a result of that report, and finding 53 children, I focused on children because under the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, any child that is found in that situation in Wales has an automatic legal requirement for the local authority to take some action and provide care and support for that individual. So I found 53 suspected cases then, and sadly they've risen. And I asked for an all-Wales trafficking coordinator. And in 2009, that's exactly what happened. And Wales was the first country in the UK to take that action. Why did I do that? Simply because people were trying to do their best, but they didn't know what that looked like. Organisations who were trying to help were not joined up. There was no system in place, and therefore the children needs were not being met. There are now, and yet I spoke just this week to the Red Cross, who were telling me that there are significant problems in North Wales now, today, as I'm speaking to you. So those are the things that I deeply care about. Of course, the trafficking's moved into a slavery debate. The issues are all the same, but with additional issues added on. We're now finding that domestic servitude, we're finding that type of work we find in a rural location where you have forced labour is rearing its head, and we're finding also that men and boys are featuring very heavily in that space. So I'm sure I've spoken longer than I should have. I hope I haven't, but I probably have. So those are my thoughts. Unfortunately, I'm also launching relaunching the Senedd Women's Caucus today. That's all-party commitment of women working for women, which means I'm going to have to leave you at 22, unfortunately. But it is International Women's Day. There's a fantastic group of women on this call, and collectively, I'm sure that we will not be telling the same story on the same instance in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joyce, and thank you for sharing with us about your work and obviously the passion and the changes that you're looking to make and have made already. Good to hear about the crimes that you mentioned is no longer the hidden crime, but I think we all know that there is still work and lots of work for us to do to make change. You mentioned domestic servitude, and I just want to share with everyone online that we did bring Brave with us today. So he is live as well in the Senedd. So thank you, Joyce. Thank you for being our sponsor. We know you've got a lot to do today. So thank you for sharing the opportunity with us and us being here. So we're just going to leave you for a little while live from the Senedd, and we're now going to go to Bella, who's going to give us an overview on Soroptimists taking action on microfinance. Over to you. Bella, you're on mute.
Okay, microfinance, a hand up and not a handout. Microfinance involves small loans to people in emerging economies to grow their businesses. The concept was pioneered by Nobel Peace Prize winner Mohammed Yunus and the Grameen Bank, targeting financial help to the 2/3 of the world's population who have no access to banking facilities. The Soroptimists in our region have been lending small amounts, and it can be from just £15. And when the money is repaid, typically in 6 to 24 months, the funds can be withdrawn or reinvested. For example, Barry and District have made a total of 28 loans, with 4 currently being repaid. Two of the organisations used by Soroptimists are Lend with Care and Kiva. Both are run by international charities who can ensure that 100% of the loan goes to the borrower. Local partners manage the loans, who charge fees which are monitored for fairness, and this adds another layer of growing prosperity to an area. Both organisations have decades of experience, a wide range of countries they operate in, and most encouraging are the high repayment rates of around 97%. Prospective borrowers are checked to ensure that they will not be trapped by spiralling debt, and the charities also provide financial education and training. Now, as you might expect, Soroptimists choose to lend to other women. These are often working from home alongside raising their families in trades as diverse as agriculture, retail, transport, education and crafts. Women typically spend a high proportion of their income on the welfare of their own households, so lifting one lifts many. In some cases, employment is created and benefits the whole community. Women with no access to bank accounts can find saving money risky, as it can expose them to theft and potentially violence. Lend with Care have initiated a village savings scheme with triple keyed strong boxes to enable women to save securely. Many of the clubs in our region were inspired to learn more about microfinance by a talk by Fishguard Soroptimists. The satisfaction of having a loan repaid, knowing how much it has helped, is so rewarding, and sharing this good news will inspire further investment. One club asks a new member to choose a new loan recipient, thereby instantly involving them. Holding a fundraiser, as Milford Haven plans to do this year, raises awareness of these schemes amongst individuals who may go on to invest. Both Lend with Care and Kiva have a gift voucher option, and I'm sure we can all think of someone for whom this would be the perfect present. It really is the gift that keeps on giving. We could consider them as raffle prizes too. Julia Brady will go into more detail about some of the women who have received loans from Haverfordwest Soroptimists. Julia has been club treasurer for 4 years and will become our vice president next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Bella. Good morning, ladies. I'm going to talk now about how we at Haverfordwest Club have been involved with Lend with Care. We started, and I just realised this morning when I was reading through my notes, 3 years ago today on the 8th of March 2019, which is quite surreal, when we deposited £200 credit into the Lend with Care account that Haverfordwest Soroptimists have. And it's 6 easy steps. As you can see, it starts with an idea. It could be a scrap metal business, growing crops, selling clothes. They just need a helping hand from us. Secondly, the entrepreneur requests a loan. And if the plan to invest in their business shows promise and is approved, they will have the go-ahead to get started. 3, we simply lend to the entrepreneur. 4, the entrepreneur grows their business. 5, the loan is repaid, and every month, every 6 weeks, I get a little email coming through to show us how much they've repaid us. I had one yesterday saying I've had 7 loans repaid this month. And 6, you decide to re-lend to another entrepreneur. You can withdraw your funds, or you can then decide to give money towards the costs. It really is very, very simple. My next screen is going to show the 11 entrepreneurs that we have helped so far. And as you can see, it's a mix of groups and individuals. We started, as I said, on the 8th of March 2019 with a £200 deposit into our account. And the first 2 loans we made were £45 to a group called the Makina Group from Malawi and a lady called Senedd from Cambodia. We then topped up our account the following year and now have what we call a revolving credit to lend to entrepreneurs every few months. At our initial business discussion, we decided to lend to women and in countries where Soroptimists were at the time. And now I have a free rein, I suppose you call it, to lend every few months when our loans are repaid and look for new entrepreneurs to support. And I feel so proud every time I get an email saying that they've repaid their loan and it's obviously a successful venture. And we at Haverfordwest are very proud that we are able to reach out to women in poorer countries with our small loans, making a big difference to their lives and the lives of their families. From these 11 entrepreneurs, this shows you here exactly what we have done at Haverfordwest. So we've done 11 loans. We have lent £495. We have helped 63 entrepreneurs, 283 family members, and amazingly, we created 6 jobs within this and helped 352 people. So that's something that we are really proud of, and something that just grows and grows and grows. Now I'm going to show you a photograph now of the McKenna group. This is the first group of ladies we helped on the right-hand side here. They requested initially a loan of £1,516.76, and we lent them £45. It was a group of 10 women, 5 married, 5 divorced, with small businesses such as selling vegetables, groceries, clothes, and running restaurants. They all care for children and started their businesses to provide for families and improve their standard of living. The first loan was repaid in full, and now we're in the middle of a second loan with them, which is requested to buy bulk stock for their businesses. One of the members, a 42-year-old lady called Elizabeth, has got 4 children and started her business 4 years ago. And she now employs 3 people in her own restaurant, which is remarkable. And she received part of her loan to buy maize, cooking oil, meat and vegetables, and to pay for electricity in her restaurant. You can see Gladys here on the left. She's a 43-year-old divorced mum of 4, and she used her part of the loan to the McKenna group to purchase shoes to resell and support her family. And what a smile she's got there. Our next photograph shows Nazia Bibi, and she's a 36-year-old mum from Pakistan. She's got 4 children. Her husband earns around £85 a month. And she started her business about 5 years ago, and she makes beautiful women's clothing, as you can see, and she sells to different shops in the city. She now earns from this about £63 a month herself, and her loan was to buy more chiffon fabric, pearls, stones, and a new wooden table to work on. And what beautiful fabric she's got there, it's amazing. Now, the last photograph we have here is showing the Nyachonko group from Zambia. And I have just had an email through last week saying that this group that we helped a couple of months ago have just made their final payment to us and repaid their loan entirely. This is the farming group in Zambia where members grew vegetables, had poultry businesses and grocery stores along the road. And the group consisted of 4 ladies with 28 children between them. And their businesses have helped their children to be able to attend school full time. And from this, their children have got involved in the businesses at weekends, have earned a little bit of money, and they've been able to buy stationery themselves for their schoolwork, which is just lovely. Now you can see Tamida here on the left, standing next to her cabbage field. Part of her loan now has been to buy tomato seeds so she can increase the produce she sells. And she's using her money to help pay for her children's education and pay for electricity using solar batteries. And this has enabled her children to work on their schoolwork at night to achieve higher grades. So what a lovely story, and what better can we do? So I'm sure you will all agree that microfinance is a fantastic way for us all to be able to reach out to women all over the world in need of a helping hand. And through what we've done with Lend with Care, you can do this so easily. And a small microloan can change someone's life and enable them to grow their business and provide for their families. As Bella said earlier, you can lend as little as £15 to fund a small business, and this gives poor people across the world access to financial tools and the training needed to lift themselves out of poverty. Not only can we help as organisations like Soroptimists, but we can do individually. And like Bella said earlier, buy a gift voucher for someone. They can be part of this too. How much more could a £15 gift voucher for Lend with Care do for our children if we ask them as grandchildren, children, nieces and nephews, giving them to their Christmas presents, birthday presents, enabling them to help someone less fortunate? It would be a special birthday present. Now I'm going to hand over to Pat Salt from SI Barry, who is Programme Action Officer there, who's going to talk to us about how at Barry they have brought this a step further and taken their work into schools, educating children on economics and geography in the wider world. So Pat, over to you.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you. Right, back in 2014, following a suggestion from a club member who actually invested in Kiva, we decided to find out how we could invest as a club. Our first investment was made in July 2014, sorry. And since then, as you've heard, Barry and District have supported 28 women across 26 different countries. But we had a question in our mind. How could we make this an active service opportunity for members? And from this question, our workshop, Helping to Make a Difference, aimed at Year 6 pupils in primary schools, evolved. Our aims and objectives, and you might guess from that I worked in education, we aimed to raise awareness of the support needed to enable people in other countries to make a living. Our objectives were twofold. Each school would have information about 5 or 6 women that we support and the countries in which they live. And secondly, all pupils would learn new skills, become aware of how to make a difference, and above all, enjoy themselves. The skills we aimed to utilise were research skills using ICT, presentation skills in sharing information, and working with new people, both peers and adults. So, what did we need to do? Well, we needed to write the content of the workshop. We needed to engage our members in helping deliver the workshop by reassuring them that all their resources and guidance were readily available, and they didn't have to have any experience to do it. They did need a DBS, however. We needed to provide resources for pupils, with the exception of the iPads and laptops, which the school provide. And we needed to contact head teachers of local primary schools and talk to them about what we offer in the workshop and its potential value to their school. Our first workshop involved 5 primary schools in Barry, each sending 5 Year 6 pupils. We also involved Year 12 students from a local comprehensive school to help support our 9 club members. And since then, we have worked with individual schools in Wenvo, Penarth, Sully and Barry, as well as cluster group schools linked with St Cyrus Comprehensive School in Penarth. And over 22 different club members have been involved in delivering the workshop to the students. Well, the workshop covers a full day. We have 2 club members working with each group of 5 or 6 pupils, and not all of them are ex-teachers, quite a few are, but not all. We mixed up the pupils so that they are working with different classmates. Then, using an animated video about Pedro, who produces coffee in Bolivia, we introduced Kiva and microfinancing. The video is available on YouTube. Each group has their own country and their own lady. And as an example, I'm using Rose from Kenya, who wanted money to produce a motorcycle, to buy a motorcycle to transport her produce to market. Now, the first time I ever saw a picture of Rose, she was very elegantly dressed in a very long dress. And I could not believe that she wanted to get a motorcycle and get on the motorcycle and take it and her produce to market. In the morning session, Rose's group will research Kenya using an iPad or a laptop supported by 2 club members. They'll find out about the language, the currency, the environment, education, resources, and culture, as well as identifying where it is on a large world map. Then, sometimes a little nervously, they prepare an oral presentation for the other groups on Kenya. Each presentation is about 4 to 5 minutes, and it enables everybody to hear about each country. In the afternoon, we spend that time learning about Rose. There's a discussion as to how she might earn a living based on the research they did in the morning and what currency she needs. Following the discussion, the pupils are introduced to Rose, revealing what she does, about her family, and why she needs an investment from Kiva. Rose was an amazing lady, and some of the things in the presentations that the pupils produced, particularly trying to simulate a motorcycle, were extremely engaging and very interesting, because in the afternoon, they do the presentations again. This time, though, they're much livelier. They've learned to work with each other. They're much more confident. Our members have got a little bit more imaginative over the years, and they provide props and dressing up and things like that. We conclude working with the pupils by giving $25, the amount that we as a club invest in each person, to each group, and they decide which ladies they would like to give how much money to. They don't have to give the $25 to all one person, they can spread it out. All the pupils then are awarded a certificate from SI Barrier District for taking part, and the school receives one for hosting our workshop. They also receive the large map that we use in the morning. And then the school is asked, if possible, could they get an evaluation from the pupils as to how they have enjoyed the day. I'd just like to read you one of those. On behalf of Year 6, we thank you very much. We enjoyed the whole day, especially the groups, as it was fun working with different people. We enjoyed working with all the ladies and the Year 12 pupils who helped us out and played a big part in our role play presentations, which we really liked. It was very interesting to research how people in poorer countries are much less fortunate than we are, and that we need to appreciate what we have. All in all, the day was great fun and very informative. Helping a Difference was initially conceived as an extension of a club project, but it has enabled us to work together and with others to learn that the world we live in is not the same for everyone. In a recent issue of the Soroptimist News, Ingrid from Wexford said, "Projects are only successful where they are interesting for members to become involved in and produce satisfaction in their execution." And I do hope that the workshops will provide satisfaction for our members, as well as for the schools that we visited. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pat, and thank you very much for everyone in relation to the microfinance. Absolutely fantastic, and the work that's been done so far has been incredible. It really is about empowering women from across the world, from Welsh clubs, which is obviously what we're here to do. I'm going to leave you all now from the Senedd, and I'm going to hand over to Hannah. So Hannah Blythe, MS, is the Deputy Minister for Social Partnerships. And Hannah, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon as well, which has been fantastic. So I'm handing over to you.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you very much for the opportunity to step in for Jane Hutt and join you today. I'm afraid I did miss some of the early contributions, so I had very much at a computer says no moment trying to log up, get in as a panelist. I'm really pleased I'm actually here now, and I just want to apologise at the outset. I am suffering from quite a bad cough at the moment, so hopefully I will get through my entire contribution without adding to it by coughing, but generally very pleased to be with you today to celebrate 100 years of Soroptimists International and the work across the globe and here at home in Wales. I'm particularly pleased to be able to do this on International Women's Day. So it'd be remiss of me not to wish everybody here, everybody watching, a very happy International Women's Day. But it's not only an opportunity to celebrate the achievements of groups such as the Soroptimists, but also to continue to come together and reaffirm our call for gender equality and an end to violence against women. And I'd like to thank you, Kim, and for organising this event, and for my colleague and friend Joyce Watson for hosting it and enable us to be able to do this in this way, to still be able to come together today of all days. It's a privilege to be able to speak today about the work that Welsh Government is doing around violence against women, domestic abuse and sexual violence agenda, and the work we are doing here in Wales. And we all know that violence against women and girls is far too common. Harassment, abuse and violence are daily occurrences for women, and for far too long and for far too often it has conditioned women's lives. The Welsh Government has always been clear about our ambition to end this violence and abuse in all aspects of life. And the violence against women, domestic abuse and sexual violence, or VAWDA-SV as you might hear it called, at 2015, and resulted in a national strategy was successful in pushing this agenda to many areas of government and across public bodies. And many people here today will have been part of this important work. But as always, we must go further, and there's always more to be done. And our latest programme for government, set out after the Senedd elections in May, committed to strengthening the next iteration of the VAWDA-SV strategy, with an expansion to include street and workplace harassment in order to make Wales the safest place in Europe to be a woman. But as always, we cannot do this alone, and our consultation on the next version closed last month and received over 120 responses from public and specialist sectors and from survivors themselves. We asked people to tell us what they thought of the shared vision set out in the strategy, and we very much appreciate that so many people gave their time to take up the opportunity. The response we've had makes clear that people across Wales are standing up and are saying enough is enough, and shows that we're committed to working together to eliminate VAWDA-SV. So we are currently analysing all the responses, and the final strategy is hoped to be published in late spring. So we've achieved a lot in Wales in tackling VAWDA-SV, yet we still need to do more. So importantly, how will the strategy actually make a difference to people's lives and to our communities? At its heart, the revised strategy recognises VAWDA-SV as a societal issue that requires a holistic, whole-scale societal response. Tackling male violence, gender inequality and misogyny require action at both ends of the spectrum. We have to support survivors, but we must hold perpetrators to account and also create genuine behaviour change. This is how we'll combat the dangerous and destructive negative attitudes towards women that can manifest in acts of violence and abuse. We also need to empower boys and men to challenge these behaviours at the earliest stages and to act as positive role models for others. Violence against women, domestic abuse and sexual violence are not inevitable. So we must challenge the root cause of this behaviour whilst also addressing the harmful and wide-ranging impacts of VAWDA-SV. Part of this is making sure that we are changing that culture on the ground for our young people. Raising children and young people's awareness of equality, respect and consent is crucial if we are to stop VAWDA-SV. We want to ensure all children and young people have access to developmentally appropriate, high-quality learning that responds to their needs and experiences. Relationships and Sexuality Education, RSE, is a statutory part of the new curriculum starting from September this year. We'll work with children and young people to highlight the importance of safe, equal and healthy relationships, and that abusive behaviour is always wrong. We must give young people in Wales the opportunity to grow free from damaging and limiting ideas around gender roles, power and control. And what about putting this strategy into practice? Importantly, this strategy is built on a strengthened partnership approach, the way that we take here in Wales. The strategy will be delivered through a blueprint approach which brings together devolved and non-devolved organisations, as well as strengthening the partnership between public, private and specialist sectors. This means that action and interventions will be more coordinated and directed so that collectively we offer more of the sum of our parts. This partnership approach is key. It shows that we're all committed to working together in Wales with a shared purpose to eliminate VAWDA-SV. We are joining together to demand change, but importantly, we are joining together to make that change happen so that women are safe in all aspects of our lives, at home, in the street, at work, and in the nighttime economy. Events like this today are so important in recognising how far we've come, what we achieved, and what we are doing together. But also provides a platform for us to galvanise our actions and recommit to carry on working together. So in closing, I would like to thank everybody here today for all your work, and I look forward to continuing to work with you and my colleague Jane Hutt, as we know we must unite to end violence on our streets,
We used to unite for change, and we must unite to allow everyone to live free. Wales will not be a bystander to abuse, and together our collective action will bring lasting change. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Well, you got through that without coughing. Thank you particularly for taking time out of your busy diary to share our session today and enlighten us of all your work. We are really pleased that you're supporting us and we're all working towards the same goal. We hope that you will stay connected with us as a group in the future. Well, you will notice probably a slight change to your programme. I'm now going to hand over to Caroline from SI RIL, who is going to address Soroptimists taking action against modern slavery. Over to you, Caroline.
Llan da Bob and Cyfarchian Ogledd Cymru. First of all, quick correction, I'm actually from SI Llandudno District. So Soroptimists taking action on modern slavery. In North Wales, Soroptimists have been taking action on modern slavery for many years. We've done awareness training with our own clubs and more widely through posters and flyers. We've helped North Wales Police with visiting hotels and guest houses. We've donated to various charities involved with supporting victims of modern slavery. SI Anglesey have been particularly active. Holyhead Port is within their area, and they've taken part in several big projects there. But what I want to talk to you about in the 10 minutes allotted today is the work we've been doing over the last couple of years. Early in lockdown, we became aware of the fact that there is potential for labour abuse in the supply chains in the manufacture of PPE. And the club discussed this in our Zoom meetings and via email, and we felt that we ought to find out what our local health board and local authority, where they were obtaining their supplies. Well, of course, whenever you look into that, you realise that procurement for the health boards and local authorities, etc. in Wales is done through the NHS Wales Shared Services Partnership, and that their work is guided by the Welsh Government Ethical Employment and Supply Chains Code of Practice. Now, that is a very impressive document, but even the best document can become a tick box exercise. So we thought we'd ask some questions. And so we wrote some letters, first of all to Shared Services Partnership and later to the Welsh Department for Economy and Transport. And in due course, I'll be writing a few more to them to see how their implementation of the Code of Practice has progressed in the last couple of years. It's quite a small step then from thinking about labour abuse to thinking about modern slavery. One of our club members in Llandudno is Ali Oseri, who has been involved in anti-slavery work for very many years. And she encouraged us to look at the Modern Slavery Act and how it was working here in North Wales. And so we started writing more letters. Some people were very helpful in their replies, others were considerably less so. I would say that North Wales Police have been particularly generous in the time and information that they've shared with us. Initially, it was a small group from Llandudno and District Club who were doing this, but we knew that others of our colleagues in North Wales were also interested in the issues of modern slavery and human trafficking. And so we wondered how we could progress this, because the more information we got, the more questions and concerns we had, and therefore the more letters we wrote. Our region spans the England-Wales border, and anti-slavery work, anti-slavery services tend to be organised on police force areas, local authority areas, national boundaries. And so we felt that there was a place for the clubs in North Wales to have a forum where they could discuss such issues. And so with the help of Esther Roberts from SIRIL, we set up the North Wales Soroptimist Anti-Slavery Group. We're a group of Soroptimists with a particular interest in the issues, and we use the group as a forum to share information and ideas and to coordinate action when it's appropriate. It's also very helpful to have people who are interested and knowledgeable to critique the letters. And we've hosted a number of relevant speakers. And we don't just ask them to come and speak. In most cases, when we decide who we want to speak, we also discuss between us what issues we want them to cover. And we write to them in advance with a series of clear questions. And most of our speakers have been very good about actually answering those questions when they have been within their remit. Again, I would say North Wales Police and the Police and Crime Commissioner have been particularly good at engaging with us. So what have we done? Well, we've written letters, we've asked questions to candidates for the Senedd election and for the PCC election. We've tried to clear up the ambiguity as to whether CQC were actually going to be inspecting the victim care contract provider in Wales, since CQC makes it very clear on its own website that it only works in England. And sensibly, yes, they are going to be working in Wales on this particular aspect as well, though we do have some concerns at the response we got from the Home Office at the fact that the CQC will have no authority to insist that changes are made with the VCC providers in the way that they can insist that changes are made in health providers. We have engaged in the debates locally on county lines. We took part in the consultation on the Nationality and Borders Bill, and I'll spare you a monologue on my feelings on that particular consultation. Being very unhappy with the way in which the consultation allowed us to take part, we've therefore written letters about our concerns about the Nationality and Borders Bill, and also about the creation of the Immigration Enforcement Competent Authority. Obviously, these are issues which are under Westminster's control, but they do affect what we are able to do in Wales. And because of that, I also wrote to Jane Hutt about our concerns on both these issues. And I'm very grateful to Jane for the prompt and very comprehensive reply and very reassuring reply that we received from her as to the attitude of the Welsh Government on this issue. We also send a representative to North Wales Modern Slavery Providers Forum. We have assisted the police in visiting hotels in Llandudno, and we hope that that project will be widened to hotels elsewhere in North Wales. We've collected clothes and toiletries and gifts for the victims of modern slavery who are supported by Bowso in North Wales. And most recently, we've been sharing the link on the screen here You won't be surprised to know that the people traffickers are busily at work among the Ukrainian refugees on the Ukrainian borders. And this is a link to a Ukraine language handout, which warns people of the risks and also suggests how they can keep themselves safe. I'll put this link into the chat box later, and I would ask you to share it with any person or organization that you think can help to get these leaflets to the people in Ukraine who need the information. So taking action, yes, we undoubtedly are. Making a difference, that's a good question. Soroptimists are encouraged to plan projects where they have a clear end point and a clear outcome, but this is something just a little bit different. Undoubtedly, the gifts that we have given to victims of modern slavery via BOWSO have made a difference, at least momentarily. But all the letters that we've written, all the discussions that we've had with individuals and groups, has that made a difference? And the simple answer is that we don't know, and we probably never will know. But I very firmly believe that we cannot expect other people to do the things that we want unless we tell them what we want them to do. And I believe that we cannot get people to change their opinions unless we engage in a constructive and detailed, respectful manner, explaining why we think that our opinions matter. And so I, for one, will continue to write letters. I'll probably never know whether they make a difference or not, but there's just a chance that they might. Diolch.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Firstly, apologies for transferring you from Llandudno to Rhyl Club, and secondly for the change in the programme.
No problem.
Thank you very much, and we wish you luck in your continued work, well, our continued work with modern day slavery and human trafficking. And now gives me great pleasure to hand over to SIGB President, Cathy Cottridge. She will tell us more of the wider work of Soroptimist International as we move into the next centennial. Over to you, Cathy. Cathy, are you there? She was there a second ago.
Heidi, I think we've lost Cathy temporarily.
Okay. I did check with her if she was okay to speak after Caroline, and she said yes. She was there then.
I'll try and see if I can find Cathy in the background.
I sent a message in the chat.
Cathy's here now. She's in.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome, Kathy.
My apologies. I was having difficulty getting in as a panelist, and then, of course, I didn't appear, and then you couldn't hear me. But anyway, I'm here now. So thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you, Regional President Heidi and guests and fellow Soroptimists for inviting me to share in your International Women's Day celebrations, showcasing Soroptimists in Wales taking action. It has been rewarding to see all the work that you are doing, tackling violence against women and girls in all its forms, including modern day slavery. And it's very concerning to hear already that traffickers could be at work in Ukraine. And I know that we all stand united against the people that are suffering so terribly there at the moment. Soroptimists throughout the UK are supporting women through the microfinancing, as you've demonstrated, and it's really heartening to see how much the lives of women and their families can be improved with a relatively small amount of funding. Your projects typify the work that Soroptimists throughout the world have been carrying out for the last 100 years. As well as it being International Women's Day, today's event has been planned as part of the Soroptimist International Centenary celebrations. I'm sure you all know that the Soroptimist movement began in October 1921, when a group of professional women met in Oakland, California, to see how they could work to improve society. Their first campaign was to lobby government to save the giant redwood trees, which were being felled by logging companies at an alarming rate. They succeeded and went on to raise funds to purchase the land and the trees, creating a Soroptimist reserve, which is there today. There are now 72,000 Soroptimists in 121 countries, made up of 5 federations. Our federation, SI Great Britain and Ireland, otherwise known as SIGBI for short, SI Europe, SI Americas, SI Africa, and SI Southwest Pacific, all working to improve the lives of women and girls through education, empowering and enabling them to have the best lives they can. As SIGBI began to plan its 100th anniversary celebrations in 2019, Sue Challoner started creating her wonderful history website, and she wrote a brilliant play which has been performed throughout the Soroptimist world and beyond. And Helen Owen created the banner which has been used on all our promotional material. You will have seen the campaign that it started as the 100 for 100. It was Liz Batten's idea. To showcase 100 women that have made a significant difference in improving the lives of women and girls. Liz was then inundated with responses when clubs were asked to nominate fellow Soroptimists, past and present. So it became the Who Is She campaign, and there were 147 women that were showcased over the year between 2020 and 2021. I was actually approached by the president of the Polish Union to write a 5,000-word article on the history of our federation, which was formed in 1934, which was to form part of a centenary book that they're producing. And I'm looking forward to seeing the book very shortly. So the theme for the centenary was Bright Past, Brilliant Future. An exhibition was created to illustrate our history and our plans for the future, where no one gets left behind. That's where we want to be. By 2030, we want to be in a world where we have gender equality and nobody is left behind. And I can see that you have 2 of the banners here today. One's behind President Heidi and the other behind Kim Ann. It seemed, since that was how SI started, by saving the redwood trees and bearing in mind the ever-increasing climate emergency, it seemed appropriate to launch a tree planting project. And I'm beyond thrilled that over the last 15 months, members have now planted 94,770 trees throughout the Federation, including mangrove plants in Bangladesh and the Sundarbans, and trees in India, the Caribbean and Malta. I'm absolutely certain that we will now reach my ambitious target of 100,000 trees for 100 years. The original intention was to have a celebration event in all 4 parliaments throughout 2021, where the exhibition could be displayed, but the pandemic disrupted our plans, as it did for so many. However, having moved the date 3 times, we were eventually able to have the reception at the House of Lords in Westminster in October, where we were fortunate to have the presence of the MP Theresa May, and at the Scottish Parliament in December last year, where a number of members of the Scottish Parliament supported us, as you have had here today from the Senedd. There are plans to have events later this year in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. The world has significantly changed in a way that it was impossible to envisage 3 years ago when we first started planning the centenary. The fact that we're able to virtually join together here today from different parts of the country, and I saw even from Finland, demonstrates how we've all been able to come together through the appalling circumstances of the last 2 years. It also enables me now, as SIGB president, to meet with the 4 other federation presidents. We're meeting regularly every 2 months to decide how we move forward as an organisation to make us fit for the 21st century and make us fit for this digital world. I would just like to say my congratulations and thanks to everyone involved in organising today's event, and all the work that members in Wales are undertaking, making a difference to the lives of women and girls. I'm certain of a bright future for Soroptimists International as we move forward together into our 2nd century. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. I'm just now going to hand over to Louise Parry from Cheshire North Wales, immediate past regional president of Cheshire North Wales and the Wirral, to give the thank yous. Over to you, Louise.
Thank you very much, Heidi. Ladies, you may be interested to know that this event has taken so long to stage that I should have been regional president when I was giving the thanks, but I'm now immediate past president. There's been a lot of work gone into this, ladies. It has been dealt with in so many ways, but finally came together over a very short period of time. And I think exhibits what you need to be a Soroptimist, and that is flexibility. Ladies, in terms of taking action in Wales, it is odd that Wales is not a region of its own, but it's even more odd that North Wales forms part of a region with Cheshire and the Wirral. So as a region, we're very used to working across boundaries, and it's been incredibly interesting and very worthwhile to work across the boundary with South Wales as well. In fact, I think probably the first event that we did together jointly as regions was International Women's Day last year, when we joined together for an event. And I hope that we will join together for many more in the future. So this event was to celebrate 100 years with Soroptimists International. And I think we've done it very well. And I hope that you agree. I hope that it's been a very good way to mark International Women's Day. Ladies, I'd like to say thank you individually to each of the speakers, to Joyce Watson MS for her very interesting contribution to what's happening in the Welsh Senedd, to Bella and Julia and Pat for information of a project that I wasn't aware of, but will certainly go away and look at more. To Hannah Blithen, MS, also for her interesting contribution, and to Caroline for hers. I can quite assure you, ladies, she is a prolific letter writer, and I'm sure that her letters do make a difference. Thank you to Kathy for joining us and giving us the views from SIGB. And finally, ladies, thank you especially to Kim-Ann Williamson and the Senedd team for bringing all this together at such short notice. Soroptimists have taken action around the world for 100 years. I hope that you will agree that that was a bright past. And for a brilliant future, ladies, here's to the next 100 years. Thank you to everybody for attending. As Cathy says, just keeping an eye on the chat. There's somebody here from Finland. I'd specifically like to say thank you to Maureen Maguire for joining us, and to all of you. And I hope that you felt that it's been worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you for closing, and from all of us here at Live at the Senedd, thank you very much. Happy International Women's Day.